I work for a large equipment manufacturer in shipping and receiving. One of our regular suppliers sent a new driver from a different terminal. I was outside working on a project where he pulled in. So, I headed back into the receiving dock. When I checked his load, I realized it was something that could go to the storage yard. So, I sent him on his merry way. I would have thought that he'd be happy, but no, he just complained that I was too slow and that he wouldn't have had time to wait on me anyways. The next day, however, I needed the material he had on his trailer, and boy did I make a show of taking forever to unload it. I took at least 90 minutes to unload his trailer, and he was pissed off. Come Friday, I decided to screw with him. I unloaded his trailer in 11 minutes and turned his light green for him to get his papers and leave. He came in cussing up a storm, told me I intentionally wasted his time on Wednesday. Multiple curses later, he stopped yelling at me, and I calmly told him that he told me on Tuesday that I was slow and that I wasn't going to make a liar out of him. He called my boss told him to piss off. We don't have any prawn cocktail. I work in catering at a company which provides lunch for free. We ask that all the staff order their meals in the morning so we can prepare and have them ready. There is this one high-ranking staff member that rarely orders, so we end up having to accommodate them on the fly at lunchtime because they are high-ranking. We have to deal with it. I hate this. I hate that they don't follow the rules consistently. They occasionally come to the catering team at random times asking for a bag of crisps. This is okay. People often ask for a water or a biscuit, etc., and we don't mind this. It's just this staff member turns up their nose at every flavor except for prawn cocktail. They always say something like, no prawn cocktail, or, ugh, I don't like that flavor. Here's my revenge. When we get a new multi-pack of crisps, which has like 6 of each flavor in it, I use all the prawn cocktail first for packed lunches or handouts so that this staff member has to make do with something else. It makes me happy. Revenge against a toxic coworker. A supervisor at my job, Alice, has been overbearing, toxic, and self-centered, creating and attempting to enforce rules that she made up, benefiting herself, of course, and generally has been a very hostile, pain-in-the-ass coworker, in particular towards me, since I was promoted as supervisor 4 months ago. Recently, there was an incident where she made public comments for one day that she cannot do a particular job which involves customer safety and which is much easier on the supervisor doing that job, for medical reasons. Suddenly, the next day she was doing the job again, and then the day after that. I noticed that she was using a special seat cushion. No mention was made to other coworkers about the special accommodation. Then today, her first day off since the medical incident, I noticed a seat cushion stashed in a corner, but in a public area at our large facility. I looked the brand up on Amazon, and it appears to be a cushion for hemorrhoids and tailbone issues. Since neither Alice nor any other supervisor had mentioned that one of our own might be using this item, Alice does not speak to me, except to tell me to go elsewhere when she is performing a task and I happen to come by. I innocently assumed that it was left behind by a customer. When I was doing my closing rounds, I dutifully turned the item in to Lost and Found, which receives hundreds of items per day. I'm looking forward to having the pain in the ass return to work and have her pain in the ass return. Psych revenge. I had a coworker who was just an awful person to work for. We were both senior managers in a call center and each had our own staff. She and I never agreed on anything, but we spent a lot of time together and I knew her very well. My husband has OCD and I recognize the symptoms very well, and I noticed that my coworker suffered from it. One day, I attended one of her group meetings where we were listening to phone calls, which we do to synchronize quality standards. She was berating one of her managers mercilessly in front of the other managers, myself and another senior manager. Next, she hands a remote control to another one of her staff, and she gives them commands on when to stop and when to start the tapes. Meanwhile, she's sitting behind the desk with her tape player right next to her. I know my husband freaks out if I had the TV remote and use it if there's any possibility he could be between the remote and the TV, having the rays from the remote pass through his body. So, I stopped him and asked her, do you always have someone else manage the remote? Because my husband says there are harmful rays from the remote that can pass through your body. She immediately gasped, took the remote from her manager, and used her own finger to stop and start the tape player. I'm a very serious person who was very highly respected by everyone in that room. After we left the meeting, the other senior manager said to me, do you really think that rays from the remote can be harmful? I said no, but I knew she would believe it. Petty revenge on my ex way after our breakup. So my ex was a real piece of work and made my life absolute hell because I finally had him removed by the cops. I never retaliated, just quietly blocked him. Months later, he begged for closure while secretly moving in with his ex. She ended up messaging me with a bunch of abuse, which I immediately shut down by sending her screenshots of him begging for me back. Fast forward a year, I randomly remembered he had a holiday booked and checked his social media. He was away sunning himself, which reminded me he had complained that his crazy ex-girlfriend regularly checked his Facebook to make sure I was still blocked. If my photos popped back up, she'd know that he was lying. Here's the catch. He never actually blocked me. I had him blocked. Knowing that she would be tracking his profile while he was away, I simply unblocked him and let his own lies do the work. The very next day, I checked his socials again. He posted a frantic update that he had to drop out of an upcoming event because his ex-girlfriend had just kicked him out and he silently had nowhere to live. I never thought of myself as an evil genius, but I think I wear it well. Next story. Prepare to pay the asshole tax. So I work in a logistics company, and from time to time we get people misdelivering packages to us. Usually they'll be for next door, etc. Or in this case, it was an item returned for a refund. When we opened the package, we immediately knew it wasn't our stocks, as we sell apparel, not shoes. So I call up the customer and very nicely say to him that he has sent the wrong item and likely mixed up his deliveries. This guy was very condescending to me and demanded I just ship it to the correct address at my cost. Usually we do exactly that, as most people are normal humans and apologize profusely for their errors. As a warehouse, we get great rates on freight, so I normally just ship it to where it needs to be and make their day with that little bit better. No skin off my back. Not this guy. I told him that unfortunately we'll be unable to ship the item as it's his error. He would either need to organize a collection or come and collect the item himself. He opted for the latter, and when asked what times we are open, I told him we close at 4 p.m. and that we actually close at 5 p.m. So if he just would have been kind over the phone, his package would literally be on its way now. Instead, he decided to be rude to me over his mistake and now has to rush to get to reception where he thinks will close 1 hour before it actually does. Based on his home address, it's literally on the other side of town, which is an hour's drive for him. What a twat. Landlord's revenge on me. My family has been renting a house since July 2024. We rented it through a property management group. About a year ago, the only licensed broker and the owner of the company died, so the owner took over everything. We met, signed a new lease, and talked about what needed to be done. We became friends and we'd work on some house projects together. In return, he discounted rent for that month. He is an airline captain. He was out for work due to awaiting medical reviews for April Fools. I thought it would be funny to tell him we were short on rent, totally forgetting that he was short on money himself. He texts me back, tells me he understands, and to get him to balance as soon as possible. I remember he was out of work, so I quickly text him that it was an April Fool's prank and that we have all the money and I was sending it that day. And I forgot about his financial situation. He texted back saying he thought it was funny after the fact, but payback would still be coming. Mid-April, I tell him we are going on a cruise out of California in a few days. He said he'd drive by the house and when he has a chance just to check on it. On April 19th, we drive from Denver to Albuquerque, take Amtrak to LA. We are riding through San Bernardino, excited for our vacation, when I get a text from him. He drove by the house. Someone had jacked up the garage door enough to crawl under and thinks someone may still be inside. He was waiting for police to show up. I freak out, tell my wife that I don't hear from him for 30 minutes. All I could think about was the stolen electronics, my mountain bikes, my tools, keys for the truck that was parked there. I open the Ring app and all I see is neighbor kid that came over looking to play with my son. Weird. It would show activity by the garage door. Then my wife says, "Remember you pranked him about rent?" I didn't want to believe it. Then a short while later, he texts me saying, "Payback is a bitch. I deserved it." Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. New videos every week.
Peace.